I'm Linda. I'm 30, and last month I got the same text I've received 3 years in a row. Sorry, honey, there's not enough space for you at the Aspen family retreat this year. Hope you understand. A few hours later, I saw an Instagram story, accidentally tagged, showing a printed guest list. 103 confirmed guests, my siblings, their spouses, my cousins, my parents' business partners, even someone's ex-roommate. Everyone except me. For years, I've been the invisible one, despite building a successful UX design studio from scratch, despite paying my own way, earning awards, and helping others grow. It never seemed to matter. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't married. I didn't fit their image. This time, something snapped. This year, I decided the story would end differently. But before I tell you what I did next, leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, stick with me. You're going to want to see how this ends. For most of my adult life, I've believed that if I stayed quiet, worked hard, and didn't cause waves, I'd eventually earn my place. In my family, in their hearts, at their table. I thought that if I became successful enough, helpful enough, agreeable enough, they'd finally see me, not just as the black sheep, but as someone who belonged. But the more I stayed silent, the more invisible I became, until last month when I received a text message from my mother. A message so casual, so politely brutal, I actually laughed before the pain hit. It said, "Linda, honey, just a heads up. The Aspen retreat is packed this year. We just don't have the space for you. Hope you understand." I stared at that message, reread it 3 times, and felt my stomach drop the way it does when you realize in one sudden breath that you're not forgotten. You're deliberately excluded. I didn't cry right away. I just stared out my apartment window in Seattle, watching the clouds roll in, the world outside moving like nothing had changed. But something inside me cracked. 3 hours later, as if the universe couldn't help but twist the knife, my cousin accidentally tagged me in her Instagram story. It was a photo of the guest itinerary for the Aspen family retreat. At the top of the schedule, bold font, 103 confirmed guests. I zoomed in. My siblings, their partners, their kids, my cousins, distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, my father's golf buddies, my mother's Pilates instructor, even the ex-wife of my uncle's friend. And me? Nowhere. Not even a footnote. I counted the names again. Numb. Over 100 people. But somehow, no room for me. And that's when it stopped being painful. That's when it became clear. I was never meant to be included. You see, I'm the only one in the family who didn't follow the blueprint. My older sister is a pediatrician, my brother is a partner at a law firm, my younger sister just got engaged to a hedge fund manager, and me? I run a UX design studio from my apartment, work with clients across the world, and love what I do. But to my parents, it's not a real job. It's just Linda's little creative thing. They don't ask about my clients. They've never visited my office. And every time they introduce me to someone, it's always with that awkward pause, like they're trying to come up with something respectable. For years, I convinced myself it didn't matter, that I was building a different kind of life and that was enough. But there's a difference between being independent and being erased. That night after the Instagram post, I didn't cry. I couldn't. I sat in the dark, laptop open, screen glowing with design files I no longer cared to finish. I stared at the photo of the retreat schedule, zoomed in on the names, again and again. And then something strange happened. I felt awake. Like for the first time in years, I stopped waiting to be invited. I stopped hoping to be seen. I started asking, what if I made my own space? Not just for me, but for people like me. The ones who get left off the list, edited out of the family photos, described as different when what they really mean is disappointing. I opened a browser, searched luxury cabins near Aspen, and that's when I found it. A breathtaking property, tucked away in the woods, with wraparound porches, a private chef option, and 6 guest rooms, available for the exact same week. My fingers hovered over the Book Now button. And then, with a single click, I stopped waiting for permission. What happened next was something no one in my family saw coming, not even me. And if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own story, trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. I'm Linda. I'm 30 years old. I live in Seattle and run a UX design studio that works with clients around the world. I've built everything on my own. No handouts, no safety nets. I work from a quiet apartment overlooking Lake Union. I pay my taxes. I send my mom flowers on her birthday. I try. I always try. But in my family, trying was never enough. Because no matter what I achieved, I wasn't the doctor. I wasn't the lawyer. I wasn't the one with a respectable job that could be bragged about at dinner parties. My sister is a pediatrician. My brother is a litigation attorney in New York. My youngest sister just got promoted at some major investment firm in Chicago. And me? I'm the creative one, the dreamer, the one whose name you mention last, if you mention it at all. My parents, co-owners of a chain of high-end restaurants in Denver, love image. They love accomplishments you can measure in titles, degrees, square footage. They say they support all their kids equally, but actions speak louder than polite lies. And for the past 3 summers, their message has been loud and clear. Every year, our extended family organizes a week-long retreat in Aspen. Big cabin, bonfires, family traditions. It started as something beautiful, something my grandparents wanted us to treasure. But over time, it became curated, and I became optional. 3 years ago, I got the first message. Hey, Linda, we're keeping the Aspen retreat small this year. Just immediate family. No extra space. Hope you understand. I was hurt, but I swallowed it. Maybe it was a budget thing. Maybe I'd been too busy to notice how things were shifting. The next year it came again. Still a bit tight on space, sweetie. Next year for sure. That was lie number 2. And then last month it happened again, word for word. The same message, just copied and pasted. Except this time, something broke. That evening, I opened Instagram to distract myself. I wasn't even looking for anything, but the universe loves irony. My cousin had posted a story, and she tagged the official event account for the Aspen retreat, the account I never knew existed. There, for all the world to see, was a professionally designed itinerary, a guest list, the theme, the activities, the dinner menus, the hashtag. I tapped to pause the story, zoomed in, and at the top of the list, 103 confirmed guests. 103. I read it again. 103. I scanned the names. My siblings, their spouses, all the kids, aunts, uncles, business partners, childhood friends, my parents' old neighbors, even the barista from my dad's favorite cafe, I kid you not. But me? Not even mentioned. Not a slot, not a bed, not a question. I stared at my phone until it dimmed and went dark. My hand was shaking. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. Intentionally. Quietly. Painlessly for them. Brutally for me. I texted my mom. Wow, Aspen looks amazing this year. Hope it goes well. She replied 2 hours later. Thanks, sweetie. It's going to be special. We'll miss you. No apology, no explanation. Just the same cold cheerfulness I'd been taught to return with a smile. I was scrolling mindlessly through Instagram that night, not looking for anything in particular, just trying to numb the sting of that text. The same one I'd received 3 years in a row. Sorry, sweetie, no space at the cabin this year. Hope you understand. Polite, dismissive, heartbreaking in its predictability. I told myself I was used to it. I told myself I had work anyway. Deadlines, clients, deliverables. But we both know that's a lie. When your own family makes it a habit to leave you out, there's no getting used to it, only learning to mask the hurt. And then it happened. The thing that changed everything. A story popped up from my cousin Mia. She wasn't thinking when she posted it, just one of those casual behind-the-scenes moments she's always sharing. But in the photo, pinned to the refrigerator in that massive, warm mountain cabin my family rents every summer, was the schedule. A printed itinerary, with a heading that slapped me across the face. Aspen Summer Family Retreat. 103 confirmed guests. 103. Not 13, not 30. 103. My fingers shook as I zoomed in. I recognized names. Familiar ones. My siblings, of course. Their partners, their kids. My aunts and uncles, even second cousins I hadn't seen since middle school, but also people I didn't even know we were still in contact with. My dad's golf buddy and his new girlfriend. My mom's book club ladies. Even the girl who used to babysit us and who, as far as I knew, moved to Florida a decade ago. She was on that list. But I wasn't. And that's when the numbness left. I felt something sharp and clear rise inside me. Not sadness, not confusion. Something colder, more honest. Realization. This wasn't an oversight. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was choice. I took a screenshot. Sat with it for a minute. Then, with a steady hand and an ache in my chest, I sent a message to my mom. Hey, Mom. I saw the guest list on Mia's story. Read. No typing dots. No reply. 2 minutes passed, then 5, then 10. I was about to put my phone down when her reply finally came through. Oh, Linda, I figured you'd be busy with work. You're always so busy. Didn't want to pressure you. I read it once, then again. The words blurred slightly as my eyes welled. But I didn't cry, not yet. I was too stunned. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She didn't even pretend it was a mistake. She just explained it away, like I was a calendar conflict, like I was a loose end that could be snipped for the sake of a cleaner picture. I figured you'd be busy. That sentence rang in my ears like a siren. Not, we missed you. Not, we should have asked. Not even, I'm sorry. Just a gentle brush off. A confirmation of what I had always suspected but never wanted to say out loud. I wasn't a priority. Not even to the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I sat there in my apartment, the hum of my fridge the only sound in the room, and stared at that message until the screen dimmed. And then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I let the truth in. They didn't forget me. They chose not to include me. And they probably assumed I'd smile through it. Again. But that night, something changed. I didn't reach for comfort. I didn't call a friend to vent. I didn't go back to work to distract myself. I opened a new tab. Typed, luxury cabin rentals near Aspen. Because if there wasn't space for me at their table, then maybe it was time I built my own. That night, I sat in silence. No music, no background noise. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of rain tapping gently against the window. My phone lay face down on the table, the screen still echoing with that one line from my mother. We figured you'd be busy. It sounded so harmless, didn't it? So considerate, so passive. But under it was something crueler. The decision to exclude me without even asking. Not out of malice, but out of convenience. That realization hit harder than any insult could. I curled up on the couch, a blanket pulled tight around my legs, and opened an old folder on my laptop labeled Family. I hadn't touched it in a while. Most of the time, I told myself it didn't matter, that I was too busy to reminisce. But really, I just couldn't bear the contrast. Tonight, I clicked. There were hundreds of photos, from when I was still one of them. Me, age 7, holding up a pencil portrait I'd drawn of Grandpa Henry, both of us grinning like we'd won a prize. He always saw something in me before anyone else did. Said I had an artist's eyes, whatever that meant. He'd let me sketch on the back of receipts during family dinners, while everyone else fought over dessert. In one picture, I was sitting cross-legged on the floor beside his armchair, holding up a drawing of our family tree with little faces I'd doodled for each cousin. His hand rested gently on my shoulder. Further down were photos from my sister's wedding. I'd filmed her entire ceremony, voluntarily. Edited it, color-graded it, added music. Gave it to her in a wooden box I carved and painted myself. I remember her hugging me tight, whispering, "Thank you," over and over. That was before she stopped calling back. Before she became too busy. Before my schedule's full became the standard response to everything I initiated. I kept scrolling. Birthdays, beach trips, holiday dinners. I was there. sometimes smiling genuinely, sometimes fading into the edge of the frame. Slowly, my placement in those photos shifted. I moved from the center to the side to behind the camera until one day, I wasn't in them at all. I don't know when that shift happened. Maybe it was the year I declined the job at my father's company, or when I moved to Seattle instead of staying in Denver. Or maybe it was just when I started saying no more often. No, I can't fly out on 2 days' notice. No, I'm not going to drop my business to plan your fundraiser. No, I won't do free design work for your friends. Each time I claimed a piece of myself, they claimed me a little less. I closed the laptop, sat in the stillness, and then I cried. Not the dramatic, movie-worthy kind of crying, but the slow, quiet, almost polite kind. The kind that feels like it's been waiting in your bones for years. I cried for the girl who thought if she stayed small enough, worked hard enough, didn't ask for much, she'd earn her place. I cried for the version of me that watched others get praised for following the script, while I got polite silence for building something real. I cried for every time I said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. And then, in the middle of that ache, another feeling crept in. Not anger, not resentment, something else. Clarity. It came softly, like a whisper in the chest. If they don't have space for me, maybe I'm not supposed to wait for theirs. Maybe it's time I created my own. The idea felt impossible at first, but also inevitable. Because the truth is, I didn't want their kind of space. The one where you have to shrink to fit, where your value is measured by your degrees, your title, your ability to follow a mold. I wanted space with warmth, with meaning. I wanted laughter that didn't come with judgment. I wanted connection, not convenience. So I sat up, wiped my face, pulled out my phone, and typed 5 words into the browser: private retreat near Aspen Rentals. Because something in me had shifted. And this time, I wouldn't be the one standing outside the cabin, peeking through the window wondering what I'd done wrong. No. This time, I would build the house. And the people who belonged would feel it the moment they walked through the door. It started with a single browser search: private luxury retreats near Aspen. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Not exactly. I just knew I needed to reclaim something. Maybe dignity, maybe peace, maybe power. The first few listings were cold and commercial. Pretty, sure, polished but soulless. And then buried halfway down the page, I saw it. A chalet in Breckenridge, tucked into the trees 15 minutes outside Aspen. A-frame structure, wraparound porch, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto a wide open sky. Inside, 6 bedrooms, a gourmet kitchen, a reading loft, and a fire pit framed with Adirondack chairs like an invitation to breathe. Something about it hit me in the chest. It wasn't just beautiful, it felt possible. I stared at the availability dates. My heart beat louder. The exact same week as the family retreat. Same timing, different intention, different energy. Without thinking, I clicked request to book. My hands trembled. Was this impulsive? Petty? Ridiculous? But underneath those questions was something truer. I wasn't doing this to compete. I was doing this to heal. And maybe, just maybe, to finally stop waiting for someone else to give me permission to belong. I called it the home we make, a name that meant something. A name that said, this space wasn't inherited or given out of duty. It was chosen, built, crafted with intention. And then I began creating my list. First was Jasmine, my best friend from college, the one who sat with me on the floor of our dorm the night I found out I didn't get that fellowship. The one who said, "You don't need their gate, you'll build your own door." Then Marisol, a former client turned close friend, a single mom who'd once told me over tea that her own family hadn't spoken to her since she left her husband. I remembered the crack in her voice when she said, "Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who never learn how." I thought of Dana, the freelance illustrator who nearly gave up on art after being told by her brother, "You're wasting your life drawing nonsense." I remembered how her hands shook when she asked if it was okay to call herself an artist. I invited them all. And a few more. People who had been kind in quiet ways. People who didn't try to fix me. People who had created space for me when I had none. I spent the next 2 weeks designing every detail. I created custom invitations with watercolor accents. I ordered hand-bound journals, each one personalized with the retreat logo I designed. An open door with golden light spilling out. Inside, I hand-wrote a note for each guest. Thank you for seeing me. When my own family did not. You belong here. I'm honored to share this space with you. I planned 5 days of restoration and reconnection. Morning yoga on the porch, a creative journaling workshop under pine trees, sunset painting sessions with wine and music, bonfire nights with s'mores and stories and songs, no lectures, no expectations, just presence. I hired a private chef named Camille who specialized in seasonal, locally sourced meals. She emailed me a proposed menu and signed off her message with, "I'm so excited to nourish your people." That phrase made me cry. I prepared welcome baskets, organic soap, lavender-scented candles, herbal teas, and a small framed quote that read, "You are not too much. You were just never in the right room." I placed them in each room myself, with care, with love, with something I hadn't felt in years, pride. The night before everyone arrived, I stood in the main room, surrounded by flickering lanterns and the smell of fresh pine, and whispered out loud, "This is mine. All of this. I did this." Not with resentment, not with anger, but with quiet power. I wasn't trying to replace the family I lost. I was building the family I deserved. And when the first car pulled into the gravel driveway and I saw Jasmine step out, eyes wide, mouth smiling, I knew something sacred had begun. This wasn't a revenge retreat. This was a resurrection. The first night felt like stepping into a version of life I didn't know I was allowed to have. One that wasn't measured by achievement or judged by titles. It began with soft music floating through the air and the smell of roasted garlic and rosemary drifting from the kitchen. Camille, our chef, moved like poetry in motion, plating dinner like each course was a love letter. People arrived gradually, and with each arrival, I saw something shift. Shoulders dropped, smiles grew warmer. There were no stiff introductions, no need to prove anything, just a quiet agreement. We're safe here. We ate on the deck beneath a string of lights I'd spent an entire afternoon hanging, one by one, in the mountain air. The sky had that perfect early evening blue, deep, endless, and just beginning to let go of the day. Everyone took their seats around the long wooden table, candles flickering between vases of wildflowers we gathered earlier that morning. Laughter wasn't forced, conversation didn't orbit status, no one interrupted to outshine anyone else. We didn't talk about who we knew or how much we earned. We talked about what made us feel alive, about art, about grief, about the first time someone told us we were too much, about the last time we believed them. When dinner ended, we moved to the fire pit. Blankets were passed around. Someone brought out marshmallows. Dana, the illustrator, shared a story about how she used to draw in secret as a child, hiding her sketchbook under the mattress because her father called it a distraction. Marisol spoke next, her voice soft but steady, about leaving her marriage and how the silence from her family hurt more than the divorce itself. Jasmine said nothing for a long while, just stared into the flames, until she whispered, "This is the first time I've felt like I could breathe in months." And I listened. I held it all, every word, every wound, every moment of shared recognition that told us we weren't alone. Then, without planning to, I stood. The firelight brushed my face in a way that made everything feel both fragile and golden. I looked around the circle, these women, these brilliant, scarred, resilient souls who had shown up not because they were obligated, but because they believed in what we were building here. I raised my glass and my voice didn't shake. We are not here because someone invited us. We are here because we chose each other. We're not here to impress or perform or prove we're worth the seat. We made the seat. We made the table. This space didn't exist until we said it should. So tonight, let's remember this. We don't need permission to belong. We only need the courage to show up. There was a stillness after I spoke. Not awkward, Not empty, just full. The kind of silence that only comes when something true has been said. Eyes shimmered, smiles broke slowly, like morning sunlight. Then Jasmine lifted her glass too, her voice clear and soft. "To Linda," she said, "for building what didn't exist and letting us be part of it." And then, one by one, they all raised their glasses. "To Linda," they echoed, "to us." We drank, not like a toast at a wedding or a corporate party, not like a clink and move on. We drank as a ritual, as a claiming, as something sacred. I sat down slowly after that, a little dizzy, not from the wine, but from the weight that had lifted. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't trying to earn love I never owed anyone to begin with. I was simply present, whole, home. And I realized the space I had built wasn't just physical. It was emotional. It was spiritual. It was the kind of space I used to dream about in quiet moments when I felt too much or not enough. Now it was real, breathing, alive. And somehow, in building a home for others, I'd finally come home to myself. On the third morning of the retreat, sunlight filtered through the pine trees like gold dust. As I stood barefoot in the kitchen, kneading dough with Marisol and Jasmine, Camille was humming softly in the background, chopping herbs for the afternoon meal. The house smelled of rosemary, sea salt, and something warmer I couldn't name. Maybe contentment. We were laughing about how badly I'd failed at braiding the first loaf when Dana came running in from the porch, a little breathless. "Linda," she said, wide-eyed but measured, "I think your parents are here?" For a moment, the world paused. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked slowly to the front door. Through the glass, I saw their car, the familiar silver Mercedes pulling into the gravel driveway, wheels crunching under tires that didn't belong here. The doors opened. My mother stepped out first, in a crisp white blazer that looked painfully out of place in our barefoot, linen-soft wildflower world. My father followed, arms crossed, face unreadable. I took a deep breath and stepped outside. The air was warm, but my skin felt cool. My mother was the first to speak. "Linda, you really did all this?" Her voice wasn't accusatory, more like baffled, as if she'd arrived expecting something small, something temporary, something symbolic, not real, not this. I looked her in the eyes, calmly, directly, and said, "Yes, I did. I created the thing no one in our family ever offered me, a place to belong." The words landed between us like a stone dropped in water. She blinked fast. My father didn't say anything. He was scanning the house behind me, the porch strung with lights, the flicker of laughter inside. I could see it, the disbelief slowly giving way to a deeper recognition. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't rebellion. This was something crafted, steady, full of grace. "We didn't know," my mother murmured. "We didn't think you'd want this kind of thing." I let the silence hang for a moment. "You didn't ask," I said simply. "You assumed I was too busy, too different, too much of something and not enough of everything else. But that's not the truth. You didn't forget me, you excluded me, and I stopped waiting for a seat at your table." Her eyes welled. For once, she didn't deflect. She didn't tell me I was overreacting. She didn't make excuses. My father finally spoke, voice low. "This is impressive." He was looking not just at the house, but at the people moving gently inside it, at the warmth radiating outward, at the care stitched into every detail. "We saw the pictures," he said. "We didn't think it was real." I raised my chin slightly, not in pride but in certainty. "It's real," I said, "and it's not for show, it's for healing." They stood there, awkward and a little out of place, like guests arriving at a party they didn't think they were invited to because they hadn't realized they needed an invitation. And that was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to send them away, but I wasn't going to make them comfortable either. Not on autopilot. Not like before. "You're welcome to stay," I said gently, "for dinner, as guests, not as parents here to correct or evaluate. If you can sit in this space with openness, You're welcome at the table. My mother nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. My father looked at her, then at me, and gave the smallest nod. We'll try, he said. And that was enough. I led them inside, not as a daughter seeking approval, but as a woman holding space. A host, a creator, a center of gravity they had never seen before. They walked into a world they hadn't imagined I could build, because they had never cared to look. But now they were inside it, and for the first time they weren't in control. I was. Not with force, not with bitterness, but with quiet, undeniable presence. I didn't need them to understand everything that had come before. I didn't need them to say sorry. Not yet. I only needed them to see me. And for the first time, I think they did. The retreat ended the way all beautiful things do. Slowly, softly, with the kind of quiet that doesn't feel like an ending but a return. On the final morning, I stood barefoot on the porch with a mug of coffee, watching golden mist rise over the hills. The fire pit was cold now, the deck scattered with traces of joy. An empty journal here, a folded blanket there, flower petals left from last night's gratitude circle. Inside, people were packing, hugging, making plans to stay in touch. Jasmine wrote in our group chat, "Let's make this an annual tradition." Dana asked if she could design the next year's creative workshop. Camille left behind her handwritten recipes saying, "You don't know it, but this week healed something in me too." And I felt still. Not empty, not exhausted, just full. Like I'd finally stopped proving my worth and started living in it. My parents had stayed only one night, but it was enough. Enough for them to see me clearly. Enough for them to realize that I didn't just create something beautiful, I became someone they never expected. A woman who didn't need them to approve in order to exist fully. We had dinner together that night, all of us. My parents seated side by side at the long table, watching as women they didn't know toasted one another with laughter and stories. My mother asked Camille questions about the menu. My father listened more than he spoke. At one point, he turned to me and said, quietly, "I was wrong. I thought you were playing with art. But this is leadership." I didn't cry. I didn't even smile right away. I just nodded and said, "I'm not standing outside anymore. This is my world now. I made it." He nodded back. Nothing dramatic. But I think in that moment, we both understood something new. We would never go back to what we were. And that was a good thing. Back in Seattle, the rhythm of my life picked up, but it wasn't the same. Something in me had shifted. The way I walked into client meetings, the way I answered emails, the way I chose what to say yes to. I stopped shrinking. I stopped explaining. I stopped making myself palatable for people who never learned how to digest a woman like me. I kept in touch with the women from the retreat. We started calling ourselves the Chosen Circle. Once a month, we had virtual dinners, wine in hand, candles lit, laptops open. Jasmine shared her poetry. Dana showed us sketches from her upcoming zine. Marisol told us she'd started dating someone kind, someone who didn't make her feel like she had to apologize for her past. And me, I began painting again, not for clients, not for money, just for me. I hung one of my new canvases in the hallway of my apartment, a sunrise over wild mountains, a doorway with golden light spilling through, a reminder of the space I made. A few weeks later, my mother called. She asked if I'd like to help redesign the branding for their restaurants. "We want it to feel warmer," she said. "More real. More like you." I agreed. Not because I needed the project, but because she didn't call it a favor. She called it respect. My siblings started reaching out too. Not all of them understood what had happened. Some still walked around the topic like it was fragile glass. But a few, like my sister Mia, admitted they had watched me disappear and didn't know how to stop it. "You changed the narrative," she told me. "You didn't just demand a place. You created one so powerful people had to notice." And that, maybe, was the whole point. I didn't get revenge. I didn't need to. I got peace. I got presence. I got to wake up each day in a life that was fully mine, not borrowed, not tolerated, not hidden in the margins. And in doing so, I sent a message louder than any scream. I don't need to belong to you. I belong to myself. And that is enough. Have you ever been excluded from your own family's plans? Not because they forgot, but because they quietly decided you no longer belonged? This is the story of Linda, a 30-year-old woman who received the same message for 3 years in a row. Sorry, there's no space for you at the family retreat. But this year, she saw the truth. They'd made space for over 100 people, just not for her. What followed wasn't a meltdown or a confrontation, it was a moment of clarity. Instead of shrinking or begging to be seen, Linda chose to build her own space, a place filled with warmth, connection, creativity, and the kind of chosen family that doesn't just tolerate you, they celebrate you. If you've ever felt like the black sheep of your family, like your voice was too much or your dreams didn't fit their mold, this story will feel personal because Linda's story is about more than one retreat. It's about emotional neglect, family rejection, and the quiet pain of being unseen. But even more, it's about healing from that pain, not through revenge, but through rebuilding. Through reclaiming your power, through setting boundaries with toxic family dynamics, through creating your own table when you've been denied a seat at theirs. So many women live in the shadow of being told they're not enough, not successful enough, not traditional enough, not obedient enough. This video is for them. It's not just an inspirational story for women. It's a lifeline. It's a reminder that you don't need to be chosen by your birth family to be worthy of love and belonging. You can heal through community. You can find freedom in truth. You can belong to yourself. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who raised you, or if you're still trying to find the courage to do so, this is your mirror. Linda didn't wait to be invited anymore. She stopped apologizing for being different. She stopped trying to fit into a space that was designed to exclude her softness, her strength, her vision. She created something better, something beautiful, something sacred. And through that, she transformed. Not just how others saw her, but how she saw herself. Watch until the end to see what happens when her family shows up at her retreat and sees what she's built without them. This video is for anyone healing from emotional rejection, anyone learning to love themselves without approval, anyone who's ever wondered, what if I stopped waiting and started creating? Drop a comment below if this resonates with your story. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? How did you respond? Your words might be the exact encouragement someone else needs today. And if this story moved you, please hit like and subscribe. Not just for the algorithm, but to stay connected to a growing community of women who are rewriting the rules on what family, healing, and self-worth really mean. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to demand inclusion. It's to create your own world, so radiant, so real, that others can't ignore it. That's what Linda did. That's what you can do too. I didn't just change the way they saw me. I changed the way I saw myself. Have you ever been left out of family gatherings or made to feel like you never quite belonged? If so, you're not alone. I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this touched something in you, please like and subscribe. There are more stories coming your way. Stories about healing, reclaiming your voice, and finding strength where others saw weakness. Because sometimes the family we choose is the one that finally sees us for who we truly are. Share this with someone who might need that reminder today. Thank you for watching, and remember, your worth isn't defined by the ones who overlooked you. It's defined by the courage it takes to stop hiding and start honoring who you are.